Ever wonder what goes on inside the mind of someone who, literally changed the world? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're about to unpack the key takeaways from a really rare, in-depth conversation with Bill Gates himself. We'll map out how he sees everything, the world, success, and even his own legacy.
That was the whole mission the interviewer set for himself. And honestly, it's the perfect way to frame our journey today. So yeah, let's do it. Let's try to get inside his brain. We're going to use the insights from that chat to build a kind of map of his thinking, piece by piece.
So where do you even begin with a mind like that? Well, we're going to start by looking outward, through his global lens. And right now, that lens is focused, laser-focused really, on India. For Gates, India isn't just another country. He sees it as an absolutely critical hub for the entire world's future.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, 20%. That's the percentage of the entire world's population that lives in India. Think about that for a second. For Gates, that's not just some dry statistic. No way. It's the foundation of this massive and still growing global talent pool.
But, his focus on India isn't just about the sheer number of people. It's really about this incredible innovation ecosystem that's just exploded there. He points to this huge emphasis on engineering and software. You've got these top-tier universities, and this really unique knack for what he calls frugal solutions. I love that term. It's basically creating super effective but low-cost answers to massive problems. It actually explains why more and more of his own foundation's research and development is happening right there.
Okay, so from his big-picture global view, let's pivot a little and zoom in on his personal playbook. How did he actually achieve all that success? And maybe even more interesting, what's his take on all the wealth that came along with it?
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that insane intensity of his early Microsoft days. And his advice for young people who are in that same kind of competitive race, it's super blunt. He's basically saying your 20s, when you usually have fewer big responsibilities like a family, that's the time to be a maniac. That's when you have to go all in if you really want to pull ahead of the pack.
But here's the thing, it's not just about working yourself to the bone. That maniac intensity, that's just step one of a three-part playbook. The other two parts are what really keep it going. You have to be a student, like all the time, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself about what you know and what you don't. That combination, that's the real engine behind his success.
And this mindset, it leads to one of his most honestly countercultural ideas, what to do with your money when you're gone. The traditional view is you save every penny to create this dynasty for your kids. But Gates, he sees it in a completely different light. He actually believes that giving kids a ton of money isn't doing them a favor. In fact, he thinks it gets in the way of them forging their own path and finding their own success.
So just how committed is he to this idea? Well, this number, it says everything. Less than 1%. His kids are going to inherit less than 1% of his massive fortune. The rest of it, it's all going back to society through his foundation. And apparently this is something he talked about with his kids from a very early age. All right, so we've got a sense of his worldview and his personal playbook for success. Now let's look ahead. Let's turn to the future. What are the massive challenges and the huge opportunities that are really on his mind today? You got to understand, when you're operating at a level like his, you're not just worried about the next quarterly report. No, you're thinking about existential risk, the big stuff. So what does he see as the biggest threats looming on the horizon for all of us? So here they are. This is his list of top concerns. Right at the top is making sure AI is shaped in a positive way. He calls it new territory, mainly because of its potential to actually become smarter than we are. But then you've also got avoiding the next pandemic, preventing a nuclear war, bioterrorism, and of course, climate change. These are the big five, the things he believes we absolutely have to get right. But it's not all doom and gloom. Alongside all those huge fears, there's also this deep, deep optimism. And he makes this incredibly bold and specific prediction about polio. If we eradicate it, that would be just a monumental win for humanity. It would only be the second human disease we've ever completely wiped off the map, right after smallpox back in 1980. All right, let's bring it all home for our final section and see how all these pieces come together. We're going to turn the lens inward now, get into his most personal thoughts about his own mind, his fears, and ultimately what he thinks it all adds up to.
So what's Bill Gates' biggest personal fear? It's not what you'd think, like spiders or flying. It's this. It's the fear that the one tool he's valued and sharpened his entire life, his brain, will one day just not be as capable. For a guy whose whole identity is wrapped up in learning and thinking, that's a really personal and, honestly, a very humanizing fear.
And you can really see his evolution when you put the two versions side by side. You've got the maniac at 25, with endless energy, but a super narrow focus on just software. Then you have him today. He believes that all the wisdom he's gained over the decades can make up for any loss in just raw mental horsepower. He sees learning now as a muscle, something he has to keep working out to stay sharp.
So, at the end of the day, what does he want his legacy to be? Forget an epitaph on a tombstone. He's not interested in that. His ultimate goal is for people, generations from now, to look back and genuinely ask, wait, what was polio? What was malaria? His legacy, as he sees it, is the absence of these terrible problems. He wants them solved so completely that they're just forgotten.
Look, he's dedicated the entire second half of his life to taking on humanity's biggest, toughest challenges. And that leaves a pretty powerful question for the rest of us, doesn't it? What problem do you want to solve?